Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I think the correct phrasing should be that I should be welcoming myself back to my own YouTube channel, and this is because I know I have been off the radar for quite some time. I haven't dropped a video in a very long time, and I've had a lot of questions. As to, "Oh, Sisi video, where is it? What's happening? What's going on?" So, as per the title of this particular video, I'm finna share a story with you guys as to why I've been off the radar, as there has been a lot of changes in my life, and having to also deal or adapt to those changes has made it somewhat a bit of a challenge for me to sort of like shoot and also like put out content, because one had to first, deal with what's happening over there so as to be able to come through for the people. So if you are interested in hearing my story as to what's been happening in my life, do stay tuned to this video because I got a lot to tell you guys. And the reason why I feel that I am able to share the story or want to share the story is because personally there's a lot of changes that are happening in my life, and I feel like it's not just myself. There's many of us that are going through changes that maybe we weren't waiting for or we hadn't sort of foreseen. And I just want to let you know that, you're not alone. You're not the only person who's going through these things. And I find that if people feel like they are not alone within something, it's sort of like makes things a bit better because there is sort of like a relation that we have, considering the entire world is going through changes. So yeah, do stay tuned and yeah.
A change can be beautiful and both scary at the same time. You can be hurting and still wondering what tomorrow will bring, but you can also be healing and happy. Sometimes it's best not to question why you're feeling this way, but instead experience all of the emotions change may bring.
So my story begins on April 19th. It was a Sunday. Um, you know, Sunday is one of those quiet days where you sort of chill out and you reflect and you do some self care, do some nice things for yourself. And I remember I had left my place and I was with my friend at his place for quite some time because during the lockdown I was alone for the longest time and I felt I needed some human interaction. So I visited my friend and I stayed longer than I thought I was going to be staying. So the story begins with an email that was sent out by my CEO for the company that I worked for. The email was about how the company is going to go forward with all these changes that are happening because of the pandemic that is hitting us right now, and how the structure of the company will then have to change because it has to adapt to what's happening right now. Now, immediately when an email like that comes through from your work, it's sort of like it hinders on your sense of security when it comes to employment. So you can imagine the amount of anxiety I felt on that Sunday. But I was like, let's just live in the moment. I don't know what they're going to say, so I cannot be building stories or scenarios in my head because that's just going to drive me up the wall. Monday 20th came and there was a Zoom meeting that was scheduled. And in that meeting, the discussion of how the company will be going forward and what's going to happen within the structure of the company, and the facts that were laid out were pretty straightforward, that some people's positions would be deemed as redundant, which meant that people would have to be retrenched. Now, this is not something you want to hear during a time of, pandemics, because then what does your future look like, where do you go from here? Like, how do you sort of adapt to that particular thing? Anyway, yaqhubekeka i-Zoom meeting bayichaza isitori sabo being that, yeah, some of you guys will stay and some of you guys will unfortunately be let go, and communications would be made with those who are being let go first, that being the Tuesday and the Wednesday of that particular week. Monday, umuntu khangalale, because I mean, jiggy jiggy kufika Tuesday, like figure or Tuesday, you know, I was chilling and sort of like talking to my mom about how I was feeling nervous about it. And my mom was like, you know what, you're gonna be fine. Like, you're not gonna not have a job. They're going to keep you because your role is very important for the company and so forth and whatever. So that entire Tuesday, I was crossing my fingers on some, I don't want to receive an email, because if I did receive an email, it would mean that I'm one of the people that are being let go. Anyway, girl continues watching Netflix, doing nothing because stay indoors and whatever. Yeah, figure email. The email pretty much explained that, listen, this is how the company is going to go forward, and we might just not have space for you in the company, but we will continue with a actual video call on the Wednesday to discuss what is happening, gagade, or for real, for real. Now, when that happened, I immediately knew, you know, umoya wam wathi kum, it's happening. It's happening. You are about to be without a job during this particular time. So brace yourself for what is about to come. And Kenyani, the Wednesday there afterwards, they called. I had my exit interview. And by the end of that particular call, your girl was deemed without employment. A hard pill to swallow. It really was a hard pill to swallow, considering the amount of uncertainty that sort of surrounded the time at which it was happening and how it was happening. And I remember not panicking though. There was a sense of like calmness and stillness, and I remember going outside of my friend's place and chilling in the garden and looking at the trees and thinking to myself, and I reflected on 2019 New Year's Eve, you know, and I had written a letter to 2020 saying thank you. I was thanking 2020 for better work experience, in that I had spent 5 years in this particular company and working for this company, but by the end of the year, I do not see myself within that company because I wanted to grow and, you know, find other work experiences and, you know, develop my career. And Wednesday, April 20, it happened. Um, you know, there's like, you ask for things from the universe, and you say, I want to be here in the next 5 years. I want to do that in the next 2 months, or whatever the case might be. But the how and the specifics as to how you want it to happen, you don't necessarily go into. And I remember thinking to myself, I did ask for this. You know, I asked that by June of 2020, I no longer wanted to be in that company because I wanted to find something better for myself, like new experiences. And so it happened on April 20th. Your girl was deemed without employment, as she was retrenched from the company that she was working for 5 years. So that was change number one that I went through. Then we move along to change number two. After that Wednesday, I obviously had to be an adult and figure out how things are going to work, because I was staying in a place where I was renting monthly, and going forward, I had no certainty of an income. So I had to speak to my landlord and tell her, hey girl, so what's happening is X, Y, and Z, and I don't think I'll be able to be staying at the spot for May. So I would have to sort of my lease and move back home. So that was the second change that I had to go through. And I remember feeling like, you know, I can deal with, you know, not having work and whatever, but to also be able to exit my independence, both when it comes to employment and also my own personal space, because I'm very big on that. It was the second hardest pill to swallow in a space of a week, you know. Luckily for me, my landlord was quite understanding in terms of how short of a notice it was, because I only had up until the next Thursday to be out of the spot. And that happened. You know, she was okay, fine. Do your thing. It's okay. Your deposit will not be affected, because you know how these things work. You have to give in a notice. If you don't give in a notice, you will lose your deposit. But luckily for me, it didn't work out that way. And then the Sunday, Thereafter that, 26 April, one had to sort of also reflect on what was happening during that time, and so I did, and I was at peace with it. It was a very weird kind of calmness that I experienced, in that I always have this thing in my mind where, that phrase that says this too shall pass. That's how I basically live my life. In the moment, in the present moment, I stay there, because I have everything I need within that one moment to move me on to my next moment. And that's how I carried out that particular experience, finding myself without a job, and finding myself with having to move back home and losing my independence that Sunday. And I made peace with that. April 27th was, the beginning of a change I was never ready for. One would think that the two things that just happened to me would be like it, but nah, that wasn't it. So in the space of a week, 2020 came through and was like pow, 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 dead. Anyway, so April 27th was a public holiday, and the day started off great. Was chilling, watching Netflix, doing my thing, relaxing it out, and then started having a conversation with my mom, and she was telling me how my grandmother wasn't feeling so well. And I was like, okay, you know what to do, give her meds, and she's gonna be fine. And then she was like, yeah, no, she's feeling a bit better. Jiggy jiggy, after like 6 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening, my mom was like, listen, I have to rush your grandmother to hospital because she's not getting any better. And then I started speaking to my sister, and I was like, yo, what's happening? And she's like, no, umamuraiti, she's not feeling well, but she has had stints where she was worse than what she is right now. So she'll go to the hospital and she'll be fine, and everything's gonna work out great. I remember that Monday so vividly, in the sense that I didn't sleep. I was watching series upon series, movie after movie on Netflix, and just chilling on the couch. And I only went to bed after 4 o'clock. So after 4 o'clock, I go into bed and I pass out immediately. April 28th, I am awoken. Davuswa. You phone, ringtone yam is very loud. You go, anyway, that's my ringtone. So it just came through, and I was like, oh, flip, I have to wake up. And then I looked at caller ID, and it said baby sister. It was my sister calling me, and I answered the phone. Half asleep, she says to me, I say, hey, and she says to me, ukhuze kuswelekile. And my heart just it just dropped. I felt like I wasn't hearing it. It wasn't registering with me what she was saying. I remember hearing how in disbelief she was in saying that, and I was like, what? And then she says to me, "Umama uswelekile," and I just cried. I just like literally just started bawling my eyes out. I couldn't breathe. I was taken aback by, because it's something, death is never expected, or something that you sort of know how to deal with in that moment, especially when it comes to someone who was so vibrant. Yes, she was, elderly, but she was vibrant. She was filled with life. She was, she was still cleaning the house. She was still doing things around the house. So for her body to give in at that time, it came as a very big shock for all of us. And for a moment, everything that happened to me prior to that Tuesday, it wasn't a big deal. Like, that didn't faze me. But the passing of my grandmother on that Tuesday was what set me off. And I remember thinking to myself while driving back home at Kugule to inform the rest of the family and be with the entire family, was that, brah, like 2020 didn't come to play. Like, it no, this year was like, okay, I'm gonna come at you in all the ways possible. and it changed my life drastically. Like, as you can even see, like right now, the surroundings, I'm obviously not at my place anymore. It changed my life drastically, and it's something that will constantly be like a continuation of healing from it, and adapting from this happening to that happening to this big thing happening, and then trying to understand each one of those events that led to this particular point, but also trying to heal from those places. And it's been a tough journey. It's been a tough journey. As much as it has been, a shocker of events and a shocker of a journey, I felt I felt the need to sort of tell the story because of how I'm feeling right now and in this moment. And the feeling that I have comes from something Umfundisi said, "Esingcwabeni mama." And I remember the pastor was preaching about, how God doesn't take people, or, how they go on and whatever. But he said something very profound, well, for me anyway, on something about newness, how God brings about new things in your life all the time, every single time. He's creating newness in your life every single day. And I thought about it. When you wake up every morning, it's brand new. It's a brand new day. It's another opportunity for something great and something positive to happen in your life. When something ends, it means that there's a new way of life that you need to start living. When someone leaves, it means that there's a new path that you're going forward on. When something, when a loved one dies, it's a new way of living. And he kept saying this thing, new way, and I it stuck with me because of the perception that we have, or I had, when it came to loss. The perception of loss I was carrying around throughout my entire life, was that it was loss. And I kept thinking, I'm losing something. But then when you stay in that moment of thinking that you are losing, you will continue to lose. So it was a matter of how I'm adapting to this change. Is the perception of this is no longer that I've lost or said goodbye to something. I have now said hello to something new. It's a new way of living without the presence of my grandmother. It's a new way of living without my own space and being back home with my mom and my sister. It's a new way of living in a different environment to what I was used to when I was living on my own. It's a new way of living where, apart from, the 5 years that I've spent in a company, working for that person, it's all these things are new. And that is sort of like the message I wanted to bring across when it comes to changes and dealing with adversities, is the perception that one has, that sort of aids in moving on to the next moment, is understanding that it's new. Because when you hear the word new, it is exciting. It makes you want to do it. You're like, this is intriguing. I want to see where this will go, which then I think for me has sort of like ignited positive energy. And that positive energy allows me to be able to accept within the moment that I will no longer, walk into the offices of where I used to work. I will no longer share or be in my place in, with the red walls and the arts on the wall. I will no longer, feel the warm hugs of my grandmother. I have to sort of like live, she has to live in me through the memories that I have of her, and the memories that I do have are wonderful ones, because every time I envision her, I envision her smiling down at me. And I'll share a picture of that particular smile. I think it's quite warm. And that's how I've been adapting to change, is understanding that it just brings about newness. And it's something that I want other people to be aware of. Like I said, I understand that I'm not the only person who's going through personal changes, as we are all going through changes as the entire world. It's a new way of doing things. You know, a seed has been planted. It's just a matter of watering that seed so as the flower to bloom. You know, and that's the message I wanted you guys to take from this particular story. And I'm hoping that you guys relate. And if you do relate, share it to other people who might be feeling, you know, a little on the lost side of these changes, feeling that they have lost something, feeling like they don't know what the next step is. And just to show bana, ainguwe wedwa. And I feel like when you know that you're not the only person who's going through something, it makes it less heavier. You feel like somebody else out there understands you, you know? And that's what I wanted to bring across with this particular story that I'm telling you guys, and adapting to changes that has happened in my life. And if you like it, do like it. I also comment in the section below. Tell me about your stories as well. I'd love to read them and see and share these stories and see bananyanya and see, you know, we here, we're together, siafana, you and me, you know. And also, yeah, please do share the video with your people if you do like it. And another thing I wanted to add with regards to, you know, the YouTube channel, Debuyile, are you back? Like umqolo. Don't get it twisted. Yes, so I will be dropping more videos, and I will be doing a whole lot more of the dance teaching. I just need to navigate as to how I'm going to do that, but it's going to happen. Yeah. So until hey son, in English, up until that next video. Love and light, my people. Love and light.
Isilungu sithi, it is your reaction to adversity, not the adversity itself, that determines how your life story will develop.